So we're recording a cube draft again, and this time I have another first pick Ancestral Recall. I promise this doesn't happen every time. Actually decided at the last second to record this just before the pack was opened. In fairness to me, I mean, believe it or not, did decide just at the last moment, and then I was like, oh cool. So yeah, I'm taking that. There's no doubt about that at all. Second pick might be just about anything, really. Fetch land, dual land, secure a tribe elder. Anyway, go ahead and take this Ancestral Recall and see what the draft has in store for us. As I'm recording this, I still haven't made up my mind as to whether the mono blue draft I did last night will show up on the channel. It was kind of interesting, but so, you know, I could end up in mono blue again. That's possible. I didn't really try to the first few picks last night, but then I ended up there. But I mean, this time I think, an argument could be made here for like Elvish Mystic, but I don't think any other card in the pack other than a blue card really makes sense. I don't really like Time Twister that much, and I think, you know, just staying on theme, Treachery is a great card. Treachery is the kind of card that wins games, and it's on the same color that I was already in, and I'll just be happy to have it. So take the Treachery, and now I have some more interesting choices. I've yet to play Archangel Avacyn in this cube, and that would be fun. I've already got a couple of blue cards, so maybe I'm on kind of a counter control deck, and Avacyn's not a bad card. I do like Sun Titan. I do like dual lands. Impulse is also quite nice. It might be that I just want the Impulse. I already have Ancestral Recall, so like digging for Ancestral Recall isn't even the worst thing. And if I'm playing a deck with Ancestral Recall, I'm probably playing some kind of control deck that wants to dig anyway. Yeah, sure, I talked myself into it. I think one thing about it too is I've already got a 5-cost card. I'd rather load up on the cheaper cards than I would on the 5-cost cards. So maybe I want an Avacyn, maybe I don't want it that bad. You know, it depends how the deck shakes out. I did get to play Emrakul to some pretty sweet effect just last night. But I'm not sure. The Batterskull's probably just way better. Condemn is pretty good, but I could probably get better removal, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be in white. Right now, Batterskull can keep me in mono blue, so then I have 2 really good anti-aggro cards at 5. I think that's really right now for me the choices between the Batterskull. Yeah, it's just the Batterskull, honestly. But I don't think it's the Condemn. I don't think that card is powerful enough to go out of color for at this point. I do feel like Celestial Colonnade's pretty good. If you're going to have a splash land, it's a pretty good one to have. Windswept Heath is also nice if I get the correct dual lands. Rekindling Phoenix is a card that I could see playing, like blue-red kind of counter tempo control. That could be good, actually. I kind of like the Phoenix. You get a 4/3, and when it dies, it comes back. That's just great. Like, alright, it's not insane or anything, but yeah, I'm going to take the Phoenix. I'm not sure, that I'm going to be in white. It is probably the most common color to put with blue, but red is close, and black is close, and we're just not sure yet. It's hard to say for sure where this is going. Where I do want it to go is towards a control deck, and I don't think that like Hellrider or Chandra really lead that way. Everflowing Chalice is good. Ultimate Price is cool. but not necessarily super exciting. I don't really love the Chalice either. I'm going to take the Chalice because it does fit in Mono Blue, which is ideally, I think, just the best deck if somehow you're able to draft it. It's, it's obviously not always going to be an option. One thing about Chrome Mox here, I just took the Chalice, is that it does lead towards the possibility of maybe a Tinker deck. Frantic Search is in the pack, and High Tide was in the first pack, so there's a chance I get High Tide back with my Frantic Search and my Treachery, and then if I get like Time Spiral, some crazy things happen. I'm going to go with the Chrome Mox to get me a little bit of mana acceleration here, though, and see what happens after that. Okay. So, like, Rabblemaster, I think, pushes me kind of towards that blue-red kind of deck, because to see that still in the pack, I mean, to me means that red is probably pretty open. Sundering Titan is really nice if I get Tinker, but there's no guarantee of that at all. And generally, I tend to do better, I think, with kind of just solid mid-range type decks than some gimmicky combo type deck. I did not pick up the Frantic Search, so the High Tide is not looking quite as impressive as it was. And I think there's a possibility, like if I get the right dual land, that the Arid Mesa could matter. Right now I'm on red, so having a red fetch is certainly likely to be good. Sword of Fire and Ice is a particularly good sword. But I already have Batterskull, and I mean, I'm just not usually the guy playing the swords, so I feel like I'm more likely to want the Arid Mesa. And now that I have that, there is some potential that I like Inspiring Vantage, as that would make it pretty easy for me to splash a white card or two, should like Swords to Plowshares or something like that, or even Archangel Avacyn show up. I don't think I want the Burning particularly badly. I mean, it's not bad, but I like the Archangel. Like, I don't know if I'm playing either one of them. Probably not, but and now there's Chandra, which is a pretty good card. I don't think I'm going to be on Hazoret, so go ahead and take the Chandra. A lot of these cards here at the end of the pack have some potential, but aren't necessarily great. Could be on Mana Tithe. I think it's better than Mish's Factory with where I'm going, and here's Sacred Foundry, so I've got the lands for like this Jeskai colored control deck, or starting to really shape out those kinds of lands. Then it's just a matter of, are those the cards I'm going to be able to get? Chandra is probably not. I mean, it's pretty good. Like, it just depends on the matchup. It's matchup dependent whether I'm going to want that card or not. Right now, at this point, I could still either go with, wow, that's a choice. Okay, I could still go with either white or red as my second main color. Blue may at this point is the second color. Wow. I really wanted the Bolt too, but like that's not happening. Not in this pack. Not unless it tables somehow. Like, I feel like it just has to be the Mana Crypt. I really like the Mox too. What a choice, man. Because 2 mana. But then again, the Pearl is like a colored mana, sort of, but I'm not necessarily sure to be on white. Because it's a small white splash at this point. So it's kind of an off-colored thing. I think the Mana Crypt, I mean, I know that like it does deal damage to you, but just the kind of power that it gives. Of course, we are playing a control deck, but ability to curve. That's my next survey. For those of you who participated in my impromptu small survey, I'm going with the Crypt for the power level of the card. I feel like I don't play against a ton of aggro decks in tournaments like this, so I'm going to use that to my advantage, hopefully. And now I have to choose between a dual land which would fit my colors or a remand. And I do already have 3 kind of dual land kind of things going on, so I think I'm going with the remand. I've picked up a lot of mana cards recently and not a ton of actual like really great playables. One of the problems I've had at times is just making sure I get enough cheap interactive spells for my control deck. That's pretty much always the struggle with building a good control deck in Vintage Cube or Legacy Cube, is making sure that you really have the interaction. Like turns 1 and 2 are actually important turns of Magic, although I would, prefer that they weren't. Why not just play, let's play on turn 3, turn 4, guys. I mean, what's the hurry? But, we don't always get what we want. Alright, I mean, I'm probably in white. Balance is great. Torrential Gearhulk is really good too, especially with Ancestral Recall. So I definitely, again, have some choices. I mean, just with all of that artifact stuff that I have going on over here, though, I think I want to be playing the balance. I think that there's a good chance that I don't necessarily need another 6-drop. I mean, as nice as it would be to Gearhulk and Ancestral, I think I should follow through with what I was just discussing about the cheap interaction. I'm on the right. I've got the mana set up to do this thing, so let's do this thing, A couple of interesting Planeswalker choices in this pack, and a Phantasmal Image, which I really like. I think I like the Phantasmal Image here. Again, cheap interaction. Gideon Ally of Zendikar is certainly very good, but I don't necessarily have to have double white for anything else early in the game. I may not even be playing the Archangel. Wrath of God's fine, but it's not really where I want to go. Whenever you cast a spell that targets one of our permanents. Yeah. Card's decent, but not, it's sort of so-so. I'm going to take the Phantasmal Image. More cheap interaction. It fits with my Rabblemaster Phoenix kind of tempo-y kind of plan. And I also like either Kitchen Finks or Jace. I think I like the Jace because I'd like to have more blue cards here. Supposing something like Force of Will or something comes along in the next pack. Cheap Planeswalkers are great anyway. Hoping to pick up some cheap removal at some point, other than just the balance. But if nothing else, I guess the Jace kind of fits with the balance a little bit. Blade Splicer is certainly good and kind of fits with the deck a little bit. But I think I'm going with the Jace for now. So now, then we have, I guess a Braid is a pretty nice little removal spell. Spell Queller gives me something that I would like to have too, though, which is another counter spell. I think I do like the Spell Queller. I think I can pick up something else that, fills the role of a Braid fairly easily. Unexpectedly Absent's a card that it's really one of my favorites, honestly, but I think I'm not necessarily wanting to go too heavily on the double white cards again. Just anything that's kind of a little bit easier on my mana, I prefer. Oh, Elspeth, though, Elspeth is definitely sweet. I think I can just play Thirst for Knowledge, though, and be really happy with it. I think I've got a lot of nice, cheap, interesting cards going on. I have several artifacts I can discard for Thirst for Knowledge, so I think it's that. Frost Titan's also nice, but I think I can come up with enough finishers otherwise. And now I'm going to pick up a Plateau for just more fixing. I'd like to get a blue-red fix at some point, but doing well with the fixing I am getting so far. And now I can pick up either, I could get Palancron, I could get Arcane Artisan. I guess there's some potential there. The Sphinx is a card that, I could splash black for it for late game. I just don't know how often that's really going to come up. Could just be the Palancron. Yeah. It's probably more likely to get played. I don't think it's getting played necessarily, but I do think Hallowed Fountain's getting played, so I am now solidly in this Jeskai deck. Everything has really come up and made it. I mean, it's going to be a good functional deck, it appears. But I took this card out. I remember getting Gonti. Alright, so Terminus, I guess, is the only card that is anyway a consideration for me. And there could be matchups where it would be nice to have a Wrath and, ooh, a Ajani Vengeant. Late pick. Very, very nice. I guess it's pretty clear that I'm the guy that's in this deck. And Nexus of Fate's cool. I'm going to take Dragon Lord Ojutai, though. And sure, unexpectedly. Oh, I might should have taken Manic Vandal, actually, though. That's a nice little sideboard card. But anyway, either one. Both pretty good cards. And then we have Elesh Norn, which is definitely a fine finisher. Let's see, let's do this and just move some of these mana accelerants to the sideboard so I know kind of like how many actual spells I have in the deck. I do have to kind of keep an eye on like making sure I have a decent mix of the right playable spells. It's tough because Vendilion Click is really good. Ancient Tomb, though, if I draw it like with the Mana Crypt, that could get really, really gross really quick. Like, I might be happy just having the Mana Crypt. I think it's Vendilion Click, although I really like Dig Through Time, and I really like Elesh Norn. I have a lot of cheap interactions, like maybe it's just Dig Through Time. Got a fetch land. Yeah. Sure. Let's dig. I do like dig a lot. Ooh, Jace. Jace is good. True Name Nemesis is good too. True Name Nemesis may actually be better than Jace here. I'm not necessarily having to get cards in my graveyard, having to fight to do that or anything. Although it does let me recur my Ancestral Recall, which is a big deal. But I don't think that's necessarily going to be needed. It might be that True Name Nemesis is the card that actually makes sense here in the slot. And I can flip a Jace pretty easy. Now I like the Jace. One thing about it too is it works well with the balance. Like, one thing about balance is a card that if your deck works with it, it can just be so game breaking, but it's hard to get enough of the cards that really work with it to make it happen. And now I have to look at, do I want Incinerate, Counterspell, Tolarian Academy? Tolarian is kind of gimmicky. I've only got the 3 artifacts that are actually cheap. It's probably not where I want to be, unless somehow I'm just going to pick up a ton more in the last few picks, but that doesn't seem likely. Incinerate is definitely something I'd like to have, but I think it's hard to pass the Counterspell here. I'm going to still hope that I'm going to pick up another cheap. Incinerate is one of the ones, though, that was on the list of, the short list, really, of removal spells that I may pick up. Still going to go with the Counterspell, I think. I've got the Balance. I've got the Ajani, I've got the Treachery, I've got the Batterskull, so I've got a decent amount of anti-aggro. I mean, if their deck is really dedicated aggro and really good, then that may not hold up. But so now I have to pick between Spell Pierce and Lightning Helix, which is another really tough pick. And I think I'm going to actually go with the Lightning Helix. I really, really like Spell Pierce, though. But I've already got Counterspell, Remand, and Mana Tithe. So I may not need another effect like that. And I do need a removal spell pretty badly. And those aggro decks can be rough if you don't do some amount of preparing for them, even if it's very late, kind of haphazard preparement like I just did there. But anyway, that'll work. So I think this deck could hold Lotus Petal. Do I need it though? Maybe it's just Banishing Light. Banishing Light's a nice little removal too. Kind of like it. Yeah, I think I'm on that. Let's sort by color here real quick and just kind of take a look what we're doing here. There's no fixing in the pack, or I might take that over it. I guess, I mean, the pedal is in a way fixing. I think I'm just going to take the Vanishing Light. It's another solid playable. I'm getting towards where I actually am going to have enough playables, which is really nice. It's not perfect yet because I'm not really excited about the Chandra. I'm not actually excited that much about all these fives here, so there's definitely some room for improvement. But I also really like the Scalding Tarn, probably more than I like the Magma Jet by a good bit, and the Day of Judgment. There aren't many matchups for Day of Judgment, I think. Burst Lightning will fit the role just fine, though. Another cheap removal spell. I want a couple of these, just something hanging out to kind of take out the aggro stuff. It's part of the reason we're in red. And now I've got Path to Exile, so now I have a lot more. I mean, the Vortex is kind of almost scary enough to make me want to hate draft over, but not quite, so. Path means I can cut a 4-drop, a 5-drop probably. And Elesh Norn means I'm going to have to cut a 5 because I'm going to play a 7. Pretty sure I'm going to play an Elesh Norn anyway. It's a Wrath effect plus a kill condition, so it's pretty important. Pretty nice card. This guy I kind of ignored the first time around. He makes me the Monarch and exiles a creature an opponent controls until he becomes the Monarch, which is a pretty nice little combination of things to do. And maybe my fixing is actually good enough that I can make that work. And now, like the Academy, or probably the Disenchant. Probably the Disenchant. I just don't think Academy is really going to take off for me, and more times than not, it's probably just going to be just not very good. So, yep. Disenchant, definitely a card that will see some play if I play a few rounds of this format, because there are some good enchantments and artifacts, and good is sort of an understatement. So, cards I'm afraid of here. Take the red aggro card. I feel pretty good against any kind of mid-range or combo deck with that 5-cost card in it. And this is probably the card I'm most scared of here. Steamkin is fine. I wasn't playing any of those, and I guess this guy, I don't know. This guy, doesn't matter. I'm fine with them having those cards, really, because I'm not playing the decks that those are good against. So, got a pretty interesting deck here. 27 is definitely far too many playables, and I won't play those. We will not be playing all of those. So, what will I not be playing here? I do want to play pretty much all of the cheap interaction, I think. It's tough to necessarily to play the Burst Lightning, but it may be versatile enough that it's worth it. I think the Palace Jailer, let's sort by color again, because I'm kind of wanting white to be a splash color. Well, I've actually turned out to have a little more white than I have red, if I leave the Jailer and the Archangel. So I could maybe just be splashing red instead. Maybe I don't necessarily need the Rekindling Phoenix or the Chandra. That actually might make my mana work better. So it's like white is a main color, and red. The red splash basically kind of becomes free. Yeah, that's actually fine. Probably is going to work out better. It looks like that deck would just flow better. So, bye-bye Chandra. Bye-bye Phoenix. And then that lets me keep the Jailer, which is really a good card. That I've actually never played with, but I can just tell you that, I mean, it looks like a pretty good card. I've played against it, and it was pretty good. So, Path has some synergy with Balance, which I like. What else here is going on? We have... So I have 25 spells right now, and I like pretty much all of them. I do think that the best thing to do to make a cut here would be to remove a 5-cost card for the curve. So that's probably what I should do, and probably the Disenchant is a sideboard card. Although I mean, most matchups do include something that's a Disenchant target, I guess. But sometimes it's just not as effective as you'd like it to be. There's some matchups where it definitely will be, or very likely will be. But I think that's what I'm doing. I think I'm just going to go ahead, and I'm going to cut the Ojutai over the Archangel. Those are the two I think that I'm kind of debating between, but I think I just have enough card advantage that the Ojutai isn't as big a deal, and that what I'd really like is the instant speed of the Archangel so that I can react, and it can be so game-breaking when it flashes in and blocks something important. Oh, I can actually play Unexpectedly Absent unexpectedly, and I want to. That's a very nice, cheap piece of interaction, so that means I have to cut something else, which might actually be the Burst Lightning. Maybe against aggro I bring in the lightning, and otherwise I don't necessarily need it. I think that's reasonable. And it makes my red splash smaller as well, which is kind of nice. Let me take a look at this. I've only now actually got 3 red cards, and they're all single red, and that's a good thing. I mean, I could certainly hold more cards of color in my deck of various different colors if I wanted to, but like there's no need to push that. It's fine to make it a small splash. Chandra is one of the cards that I'm kind of like, it's kind of hard to not play that, but again, it's another high cost card. And these are kind of really actually cheaper cards. This deck seems really good. I am really glad I decided to record. I'm going to be kind of disappointed if it doesn't win, because it feels really strong. Yeah, this is the deck. This has to be right. This seems really nice. It's a good setup. And then we're going to have some of these manas here. Mana Crypt is definitely going to get played. Chrome Mox is going to get played. So that's going to keep my land count a little bit lower than it usually would be, which is another reason why it's nice to keep the splash small. I have 2 fetch lands for my dig through time. I mean, it's stacked. It's stacked. I think 15 land with those is probably fine. Definitely will be fine, I think. So, yeah. Yeah, we're going to run with that. I think there's nothing too complicated about it. That's what I like about this deck. It just, all of the things seem to just really work very well together. They just seem to be kind of the ideal cards for the slots. I mean, I don't have Swords to Plowshares, you know, sure, but I don't have Force of Will, I don't have Black Lotus. I mean, you can't have them all, but this deck just feels like the curve is right, and as much as it can be, it has some like power mana here, which is great. So I even have a little life gain to make up for my Mana Crypt. Alright. So enough bragging about how good the deck is. Let's try to make it win some games. I just have to figure out the mana, so we'll sort by color again. And it is a little bit more blue than white. Not by much, actually, because I've got these 2 are white. And this one's both. So about even. The blue, however, fixes for the white with Ancestral and Impulse and Jace, and even Remand and Thirst for Knowledge. So, a lot of ways that blue is a little bit more important, as it should be in any good control deck. So, I need a little more blue than red, or than white, if possible. I don't need any extra red lands except for these 5 that I have, I think. Because the Chrome Mox will also sometimes help with that. Very rarely, but should be fine. I have 5 red lands. I could play a mountain. So the cards that get white, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they all get white. because of the Hallowed Fountain, this one also gets blue. So 1, 2, 3 that get blue. So I definitely need more islands than plains here by quite a bit. Oh my. No, that's not right at all. Okay. So I already had 6 ways to get white. So 2 more should be sufficient. That makes 9 ways now to get blue, not counting the chrome mox, which should be fine. I don't really necessarily need the mountain. Maybe I need the white more, because that's 8, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ways to get 6 ways to get red. That's a lot for a small splash. No mountain of shame. Only this. So 9 blue and then 9 white. Maybe it's actually 10 and 8. I think because of Ancestral and Thirst for Knowledge and Impulse, I think it is. So, yep. Gonna go with that. And I'll see you guys back here for round 1.